When a person reaches the later chapters of life, a strange paradox appears. You have already built the proof of your abilities, yet the temptation to keep proving yourself never fades. It's the human ego's most subtle trap, the need to stay relevant, to still be seen as capable, to still win. But the real wisdom lies in understanding that the race you once ran no longer needs running. The results are already written. The scoreboard is clear. What remains is not competition, it's comprehension. There comes a time when the pursuit of more quietly turns from ambition into addiction. More money, more attention, more recognition, all of it once fueled progress, but later in life, it can quietly poison contentment. The irony is that those who have achieved the most often struggle the hardest to stop striving. They forget that the real reward of a life well lived is not in constant expansion, but in intelligent restraint. Knowing when to stop pushing is a sign of mastery, not weakness. In your younger years, the drive to climb, to compete, to conquer that made sense. It built character, sharpened judgment, and forged resilience. But at some point, the mountain peak becomes a place of observation, not of further ascent. The air up there is thin for a reason. It reminds you that you're not meant to stay in constant motion. You're meant to gain perspective. You've earned the right to reflect, to enjoy, and to teach. The greatest mistake would be to waste that season trying to prove a point that has already been made by your own life's evidence. You see, the problem with endless chasing is that it blinds you to what's already in your hand. Success is like sunlight. If you never stop to feel it, you'll always think you're in the dark. Many people who are materially rich remain spiritually poor because they've confused accumulation with fulfillment. They keep chasing deals, opportunities, and validation when they should be investing in wisdom, relationships, and peace. The older you get, the more expensive your time becomes, and yet most people spend it like pocket change. At a certain stage, the goal should shift from growing your net worth to deepening your self-worth. The question is no longer, what can I get, but what can I give? Those who understand this live gracefully, those who don't die restless. Peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from needing less. True wealth is not in the number of things you own, but in the number of things you no longer need to chase. Think of it this way. The world doesn't remember you for how much you accumulated, but for what you stood for. A person who can walk away from unnecessary pursuits demonstrates the highest form of discipline. It's easy to be driven when you're hungry. It's harder to be calm when you've already eaten. That calm, that self-restraint is the real reward of maturity. So, when you find yourself tempted to compete with younger versions of yourself, or with others still running their race, remind yourself that you've already crossed your finish line. You've already shown what you can do. The next chapter isn't about conquest, it's about contribution. The true challenge now is not to achieve more, but to understand more about life, about people, about what truly matters when the noise fades and the applause stops. There is freedom in letting go of the chase. It opens the door to clarity, gratitude, and peace. It allows you to spend your remaining time not as a competitor, but as a custodian of wisdom. Because in the end, life is not about proving, it's about improving, and the most intelligent improvement comes from knowing when to stop running. Life has a way of becoming heavier as the years go by. Responsibilities multiply, possessions pile up, relationships grow complicated, and the noise of the world gets louder. Most people mistake this accumulation for progress, believing that more must mean better. But the truth is the opposite. The older you get, the more valuable simplicity becomes. Complexity may impress the world, but simplicity sustains peace. It's the quiet art of knowing what to keep, what to discard, and what to never invite in again. Every unnecessary detail in your life is a hidden tax on your energy. Every complicated commitment drains your attention, and every excess possession silently demands maintenance. What was once a symbol of success often turns into a source of stress. The wise understand that comfort does not come from abundance, but from order. It's not about how much you have, it's about how little you need to manage. True freedom is when you no longer feel pulled in 10 directions at once, but instead can focus fully on what truly matters. Simplicity is not laziness or lack of ambition. It is precision. It's the decision to design your life around clarity, not clutter. The mind performs best when it isn't overloaded. The older you grow, the more you realize that time and focus are the real luxuries, not gold, not titles, not prestige. A clear desk, a calm mind, and a few honest people are worth more than any empire built on chaos. Look at nature, it runs on simplicity. The sun rises and sets. The seasons flow in quiet cycles. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is excessive. Human beings, however, complicate everything. We attach emotion to possessions, ego to decisions, and fear to change. Yet, when you begin stripping away the unnecessary, you don't lose anything of value. You uncover the truth that was buried underneath the excess. It's the same in every domain, in thought, in relationships, in wealth, and even in legacy. In thought, simplicity means speaking clearly and thinking slowly. Complicated thinkers often hide confusion behind fancy words. The wise prefer precision over performance. In relationships, it means surrounding yourself with people who don't drain your peace for the sake of attention. You don't need a crowd. You need a circle that brings calm. In wealth, it means making decisions that preserve independence rather than inflate image. The goal is not to manage more, but to manage less efficiently, quietly, and intelligently. There's a special kind of power in learning to say no. Most of life's chaos enters through the doors we forgot to close. You don't need to attend every event, answer every call, or react to every opinion. The ability to ignore what doesn't matter is a rare and refined strength. It's what allows you to think clearly when others drown in distraction. As the years pass, guarding your focus becomes the ultimate form of self-respect. Simplicity also demands courage. It's not easy to walk away from complexity when the world worships busyness. People will question your choices, assuming that a slower life means you've stopped progressing. But you'll know better. You'll understand that you're not retreating, you're refining. You're building a life that's not filled with clutter, but with clarity. When you remove what's unnecessary, everything that remains becomes richer. A few honest conversations replace endless small talk. A handful of meaningful possessions replace a house full of forgotten things. A simple daily routine replaces the chaos of scattered obligations. What emerges is not emptiness, it's excellence, because when life becomes simpler, the best of you finally has room to breathe. In the end, the measure of a wise life is not how much you manage to collect, but how well you learned to focus on what truly mattered. It's the quiet comfort of knowing that nothing essential has been lost, only the unnecessary has been removed. As the years pass, many people spend a lifetime protecting their wealth, but forget to protect the very thing that allows them to enjoy it, their health. Money can buy comfort, treatment, even a longer hospital stay, but it cannot buy vitality, energy, or a peaceful night's sleep. You can replace a lost investment, rebuild a business, or recover from failure, but once your body starts to decline beyond repair, no amount of wealth can rewrite that outcome. The foundation of a meaningful life is not built on numbers in a bank account. It's built on the strength of the body and clarity of the mind that carries you through every day. People often treat health as an afterthought, something to get around to, once success has been achieved. They assume discipline is for work, not for wellness, but discipline in health is the highest form of intelligence. The body is the original investment account, one that yields daily dividends if managed wisely. A clear mind, strong heart, steady breath, and pain, free movement are not luxuries. They are the quiet profits of years of consistent care. Neglect doesn't show up immediately. It arrives slowly, disguised as fatigue, irritation, or small aches you learn to ignore. Over time, those ignored warnings accumulate into something far more costly. Every late night, every poor meal, every excuse adds up not in dollars, but in days of life. You wouldn't let anyone steal from your savings, so why allow habits to steal from your lifespan? The returns you seek in business or legacy depend on this one fragile vehicle, your body. Without it functioning well, everything else becomes secondary. There's a reason the most successful individuals eventually turn their focus to health. They understand that performance, decision making, and emotional balance all depend on physical well-being. A tired mind makes poor choices. A sluggish body dulls ambition. When energy fades, so does creativity and clarity. The older you get, the more you realize that energy is the real currency, and the way you spend it or waste it determines the quality of every experience you have left. Taking care of yourself doesn't require perfection. It requires respect. Respect your body enough to feed it real food instead of processed comfort. Respect your mind enough to give it quiet time away from screens and noise. Respect your sleep enough to treat it like an appointment with your future. You can't cheat biology. Every shortcut in health becomes a long road of regret later. Balance and consistency always outperform extremes and neglect. The goal isn't to chase youth, it's to preserve vitality. You can't stop time, but you can slow its damage. Movement, sunlight, hydration, and rest are not trendy habits. They're the timeless principles that have sustained strong minds and bodies for centuries. Simplicity wins here too. You don't need expensive routines or secret formulas. You just need consistency, the ability to show up for your body the same way you once showed up for your career. There's also a deep connection between physical and emotional health. A tired body breeds a restless mind. A strong body breeds confidence, patience, and calm. The older you become, the more you realize that the battle isn't against age, it's against decay. And decay begins when you stop paying attention. When all is said and done, the greatest luxury in old age is not wealth, property, or possessions. It's waking up without pain, walking without effort, and thinking clearly without confusion. Those are the real dividends of a life well managed. You worked hard to build your fortune. Now it's time to ensure that the body carrying it can last. Because in the end, health isn't just the first wealth, it's the one that makes all others worth having. As you grow older, the quality of the people around you becomes one of the most powerful determinants of your peace, your thinking, and your overall happiness. The world is full of voices, opinions, and distractions, most of them meaningless. It's easy to mistake volume for value and mistake popularity for wisdom. But the truth is, not every voice deserves your attention, and not every companion deserves your time. A wise life is built not by how many people you know, but by how carefully you choose the few who truly matter. Energy is contagious. The attitudes, habits, and beliefs of the people closest to you slowly become your own. If you surround yourself with complainers, you'll learn to complain. If you spend your days around thinkers, you'll learn to think. People either add clarity or create confusion. There's rarely a middle ground. One of the hardest lessons life teaches is that you don't owe everyone access to your mind or your emotions. Protecting your circle is not arrogance, it's maintenance of your sanity. When you're young, you often chase attention, wanting to be liked or accepted. But as age brings perspective, you begin to understand that being surrounded by many doesn't mean being understood by any. You start craving depth instead of entertainment, truth instead of flattery, and conversations that feed your soul instead of your ego. Real connection doesn't come from noise. It comes from shared integrity, honesty, and calm. The older you get, the more precious your time becomes. Every hour spent with the wrong people is an hour stolen from your growth. There's no shortage of people who can make you laugh, but very few who can make you better. Surround yourself with those who challenge your thinking without attacking your character. Those who remind you of your principles when life tempts you to forget them. A single honest friend is more valuable than 1,000 smiling acquaintances who vanish when silence falls. Substance in people reveals itself in how they handle truth. Some run from it, others respect it. Seek out those who tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. Empty flattery is poison dressed as kindness. The people who truly care for you will sometimes make you uncomfortable, because honesty always feels heavy at first. But that weight is what keeps your character strong. There's also wisdom in solitude. Spending time alone doesn't mean you're isolated. It means you value your own company enough not to fill it with noise. Reflection, reading, walking, thinking, these are not acts of withdrawal, but of refinement. They quiet the mind so that when you do speak or listen, you do it with intention. Only in silence can you separate what is meaningful from what is merely loud. Modern life rewards those who can shout the loudest, but the older you become, the more you realize that truth whispers. The voices worth listening to are calm, consistent, and grounded in experience. They don't try to impress, they try to illuminate. Being around such people reminds you that wisdom doesn't compete, it contributes. You will find that as you mature, your circle naturally shrinks. Let it. Growth demands pruning. It's not a loss, it's an evolution. By letting go of the superficial, you create room for the genuine. Surrounding yourself with substance means curating your environment with care, not just your friendships, but the books you read, the media you consume, and the conversations you entertain. Everything you allow in either builds you or breaks you. At some point, peace becomes more valuable than company, and truth becomes more valuable than praise. When you learn to choose substance over noise, you stop seeking validation and start attracting understanding. That's when life begins to feel quiet, not because it's empty, but because it's full of the right things. There comes a stage in life when the question quietly shifts from asterisk, how long will I live, asterisk, to asterisk, what will remain when I'm gone, asterisk, the pursuit of endless years is a losing game, no one outruns time. But the pursuit of impact, of wisdom that outlives your body, is a game worth playing until the very end. The desire for longevity is rooted in fear of being forgotten. The pursuit of legacy is rooted in the courage to contribute something lasting. Time will take everything physical from you, your strength, your possessions, your position, but it cannot erase the mark you leave on others. The real measure of a life well lived is not how many years you managed to collect, but how many lives you quietly shaped through your example, your words, and your decisions. People remember how you made them think, how you made them feel, and how you behaved when no one was watching. That is the raw material of legacy. Many spend their final decades trying to extend their time rather than deepen their meaning. They chase new routines, diets, or comforts to prolong existence, forgetting that survival is not the same as living. A long life without purpose is merely an extended sentence of routine. The mind that has something to give, something to teach, never truly grows old. When your thoughts and lessons live on in others, a part of you continues long after you've gone. Legacy begins with perspective. It's understanding that your influence is far greater than your lifespan. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every kindness or cruelty, it all ripples outward. You are creating a trail, whether you realize it or not. The question is whether that trail leads to wisdom or waste. You don't have to build empires or write books to leave a mark. Living with integrity and clarity is enough to inspire anyone who crosses your path. The simplest form of legacy is example. When younger eyes watch you handle challenges with grace, you teach more than any lecture ever could. When they see you admit mistakes, you show that strength and humility can coexist. When you stand by your values despite the cost, you pass down courage. These silent lessons shape the next generation more deeply than any inheritance of wealth ever could. True legacy is also built in silence in moments when no one is watching. The small acts of fairness, the patience you show when frustrated, the decisions you make when you could have chosen the easier path, those are the bricks of a life that matters. Reputation is what people say when you're alive. Legacy is what they feel when you're gone. One fades quickly, the other grows stronger with time. You don't need to wait for old age to think about what you'll leave behind. Every day is a chance to write the story that others will tell about you. Each conversation, each act, each choice contributes to the final picture. Legacy is not something you decide at the end. It's something you build quietly every day through discipline and consistency. There's also peace in knowing that you've lived for something beyond yourself. The anxiety of aging often disappears when you realize your time has already produced fruit that others can enjoy. The goal is not immortality of the body, but continuity of the mind to plant ideas, principles, and values that continue to grow long after you no longer can. When you understand this, you stop fearing time and start respecting it. You stop asking for more years and begin using the ones you have left with precision and purpose. The wise understand that while the body eventually fades, the influence of a good life compounds far beyond the grave. In the end, the real victory is not in how long you walked the earth, but in how deeply your footsteps remain. One of the greatest sources of misery in life is the obsession with outcomes, the endless need to control how things unfold, to predict, to ensure, to win. It's a dangerous illusion because the more you try to command the result, the more you lose control over your peace. The older and wiser mind begins to see that the world doesn't bend to personal desire. It follows its own quiet order. The only thing truly within your power is how you choose to act, not how the world responds to it. Most people tie their happiness to results, success, praise, approval, profit. When things go their way, they feel elated. When they don't, they feel broken. This dependence on outcomes makes life an emotional roller coaster. But the truth is, outcomes are never entirely yours. They're shared with luck, timing, other people's decisions, and forces far beyond your reach. Building peace means accepting that uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's a permanent feature of existence. The alternative is to live by principles, timeless truths that guide your behavior regardless of circumstances. Principles act as a compass when everything else is uncertain. Honesty, discipline, patience, fairness, humility, these don't guarantee success, but they guarantee self-respect. You can't always control the reward, but you can always control your standard. That's where real strength comes from. A person guided by outcomes bends with every wind. A person guided by principles stands like a mountain, unmoved by storms. Detachment doesn't mean apathy or indifference. It means doing your best without clinging to the result. It's understanding that effort is your responsibility, while consequence belongs to the world. When you detach from the result, you think more clearly, act more calmly, and recover more quickly. The desperate need to win blinds judgment. The calm commitment to do right sharpens it. Ironically, those who stop chasing outcomes often perform better because they're focused on process, not pressure. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've done your part with integrity. You no longer need applause or validation to feel complete. Your satisfaction comes from within, from the knowledge that you acted in alignment with your values. That kind of internal stability cannot be taken away by failure or inflated by success. You stop being a puppet of circumstances and start being the author of your reactions. Throughout history, the people most respected weren't those who won every battle, but those who stayed true to themselves in defeat. Principles outlive trophies. Wealth fades, fame disappears, power changes hands, but the strength of character leaves an impression that time cannot erase. That is why it's better to lose with integrity than to win by compromise. A victory without honor is a silent defeat. When you start anchoring your life to principles instead of outcomes, something shifts. Disappointment no longer destroys you, it teaches you. Failure no longer humiliates you, it refines you. You start to value the process, the effort, the learning, the patience as much as the destination. You realize that every step taken with honesty and intention is already a form of success, even if the external reward never arrives. The beauty of this mindset is that it makes you unshakable. You stop being reactive to every rise and fall. Praise no longer blinds you, criticism no longer breaks you. You act, not to please or to prove, but because your principles demand it. And when the results finally come, whether victory or loss, you accept them with the same calm grace. Because in the end, what defines you is not what you achieved, but how you achieved it. To live by principles is to build your life on solid ground while others build on sand. It's to understand that real power lies not in control, but in character. When you let go of outcomes and hold firmly to what's right, you find something far greater than success. You find peace.